With the polls so close, Democrats are pulling out the big guns, bringing in former President Bill Clinton to come to Flint and rally up voters and reminding them to get out and vote. With the building of the lake in full swing, Mr. Callis is happy to see his dream become reality. Genesee County as a whole has a poverty rate of 27%, and the people living here are struggling to make ends meet. The president made it very clear that it wasn't just a comeback for the auto industry, but a comeback for the people. With poverty continuing to grow, shelters are running out of room and resources, which means they are turning people to the streets. From electric, hybrid to field systems, students taking the class are getting prepared for the real world. That's right, guys, we are less than 24 hours until the polls open and the big election for the state of Michigan. From Washington to Lansing to your hometown, decisions made impacts us right here in mid-Michigan. Two big races are going to be on your ballot tomorrow, including the governor's race and the race for the United States Senate. And if you need to find your polling location, you can go to michigan.gov/vote. Count on DTV for all the election results. For Live the Newsroom, Matthew Smith, DTV News. Standing 19 stories high, the Genesee Towers is the tallest building in Genesee County. 45 years later, that same month, it was time for the building to come down.
It's been sitting there costing the taxpayers a lot of money.
Now that Flint's skyline has changed forever, the hope is to move the city forward. With days before the election, former President Bill Clinton made a stop at the Riverfront Banquet Center in Flint to rally up Democrats for the upcoming election.
You can't walk 100 feet in either direction, even if you've lived out here 50 years, and not see something that you've never seen before.
And what people are going to see now is the long-awaited opening of the Robert Williams Nature Center right here in Davison Township. Randy Stewart, Building and Planning Administrator for Davison Township, says a lot of work has been done since the land was originally donated.
Well, since the last time that you were here, we've completed this building here.
Other additions are over a mile of walking and riding trails, which will be open dawn to dusk. This 25-year-old mother of three who wanted to remain anonymous is currently in family promise, and she says it's been hard for her, but even harder on her children. Michigan State University was in the spotlight as President Obama came to East Lansing to sign the landmark piece of legislation, the Farm Bill. It's been a process to get this bill passed.
We pulled together, you know, in the reasonable middle, as always.
The Farm Bill is a big piece of legislation for the whole country, but what does it mean for people right here in our community? So we looked for answers and sat down with Congressman Dan Kildee.
It was 50 years ago this year that President Lyndon Johnson declared a war on poverty. The problem is we really haven't fought a war on poverty. We've had a series of battles and we've had a whole series of retreats.
The videos are filling up on social media. Our family, friends, and national celebrities all seem to be taking what's called the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. It's a disease Mark Hawk of Davison has been dealing with for 4 years. Mark's wife, Jackie, also his caregiver, says it's a terrible, humiliating disease that sucks the life out of you and your family. This is just one activity kids are able to do here at Hero Day to get more familiar with how things work. Callis's passion and determination got Davison Township's attention. President Barack Obama hailed the resurgency of the U.S. auto industry, as well as Detroit's comeback from bankruptcy at the Ford assembly plant in Detroit. The workers are excited to have the president come to town, but they're even more excited to have the auto industry coming back. And the president will have his full speech in tonight's State of the Union address at 9. We're in the newsroom, Matthew Smith, DTV News.
This is Davison's top news source with Matthew Smith, Hannah Livingston, and sports with Trace Clinton. This is DTV News.
It was a must-see event that only lasted 15 seconds.
Well, I think it was an important change to the city of Flint. I mean, years ago in the history, The building had an important part in the beginning of the city of Flint and many businesses throughout the years with it.
Standing 19 stories high, the Genesee Towers is the tallest building in Genesee County. Inside the building housed many offices, banks, and the university clubs. Construction on the building began in 1966, and the building was officially opened December of 1968. But 45 years later, that same month, it was time for the building to come down.
It's been sitting there costing the taxpayers a lot of money, and I think it's time for it to come down and be able to do something different.
Back when the tower was standing, it faced a tremendous amount of decay due to it sitting vacant for many years.
It seems to me Flint's trying very hard to refurbish themselves, and I think it'll be a nice reinvention for them, and hopefully it'll bring better things to downtown Flint.
Along with many other witnesses on that cold, brisk December day, Jerry Hobbs of Flint brought along his squad camera to get aerial footage like never before.
The ideal is to get footage no one else is going to get. There's obviously no helicopters up there, so we're hoping to have the only aerial footage.
The project team in charge of the event was very fortunate that everything went as expected. Now that Flint's skyline has changed forever, the hope is to move the city forward. Future plans include putting a downtown courtyard where the towers used to stand. Reporting out of Flint, Matthew Smith, DTV News. From Washington to Lansing to your hometown, decisions made impacts us right here in mid-Michigan. And with the 2014 elections being tomorrow, there are many things people are concerned about, including jobs, education, and fixing Michigan's crumbling roads. Two big races are going to be on your ballot tomorrow, including the governor's race and the race for the United States Senate. Running for governor are Rick Snyder and Mark Schauer. Schauer, who's the Democrat on the ticket, the former congressman, says his plans for Michigan include growing the economy from the middle out, investing more in education, and helping small businesses.
We need to vote. I mean, turnout is the key. We know that people here are angry about Rick Snyder's pension tax, his billion-dollar cuts to public education, an economy that may work for the wealthy but not most Michiganders. They realize that the change is in their hands. And I have a vision for Michigan that will make public education our #1 priority, reverse tax increases on the middle class and retirees, and create an economy that works for everyone.
On the Republican side of your ballot, you will find Rick Snyder, who is running for another 4 years as Michigan's governor. His plans for Michigan and what he is focused on is getting more and better jobs, keeping a balanced budget, and continuing the road to recovery, which includes recovering the cities who are struggling.
We're taking care of those issues, so we'll have a bright future, not just for us, but for our kids, and building a foundation for decades to come. That's exciting. Let's not go back to the lost decade. Let's not let professional politics mess up Michigan again. It's time for us to work together.
Moving on to the U.S. Senate race, where we find Gary Peters and Terry Lynn Land. Peters, a current congressman running as a Democrat, says he wants to strengthen the middle class, raise minimum wage, and crack down on China.
We have to stand up for the things that working men and women in this state need. We need to make sure that folks who put in a fair day get a fair wage, which is why we have to increase the minimum wage in this country across the board.
Also running for the U.S. Senate is Terry Lynn Land, who is a Republican. She's focusing on securing the borders, paving the roads, and putting Michigan first.
We made government work for the people, and right now government isn't working. You got Senator Harry Reid, who has not brought up over 400 bills that are in Congress right now to the Senate. They're about the economy, they're about energy security, the Keystone Pipeline, health care, all of that. We've been traveling all around Michigan during this campaign. We've been campaigning for over a year now, talking about putting Michigan first. And when I talk to folks, they're concerned about jobs.
The videos are filling up on social media. Our family, friends, and national celebrities all seem to be taking what's called the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge. It's a disease Mark Hawk of Davison has been dealing with for 4 years.
I went to the doctor and found out in April of 2010. I was a very active person. We traveled a lot. We camped a lot and hiked. I can't do any of that now.
ALS, or Lou Gehrig's disease, is a progressive disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord and slowly takes over everything.
I can't even do the chores that I used to do around the house. My wife pretty much has to do everything.
Mark's wife, Jackie, also his caregiver, says it's a terrible, humiliating disease that sucks the life out of you and your family.
I have to help him with showers. I have to help him with some things right now, but down the road is the part that I'm not looking forward to. That's the Hoyer lift, and because he'll be just like dead weight. He'll lose his neck. It'll droop down in his arms and his legs and his speech.
Mark's grandson, Dawson Zapata, a freshman here at DHS, said it's been a struggle for him and his family.
He went from hanging out with me, playing ball, to in a wheelchair, so it's kind of hard. I mean, I still spend time with him. He used to go outside, we'd, play catch together, mow the lawn. He used to let me mow the lawn, take me to my games, so we could have something to eat, and he can't do any of that anymore.
The Hawk family and the ALS Association are reaching out to the Davison community to help raise money for Mark a wheelchair van to make it easier traveling.
The chair will enable me to, I guess, lead a more normal.
Without family, friends, and faith on Mark's side, it would be a whole lot harder to get through the difficult times.
I know that if the disease ends up progressing faster and I'm out of here, I'm in a better place. So,
Matthew Smith, DTV News. President Barack Obama hailed the resurgency of the U.S. auto industry, as well as Detroit's comeback from bankruptcy at the Ford assembly plant in Detroit.
Last year, 2014, was the strongest year for job growth since the 1990s. Since the 1990s.
The president made it very clear that it wasn't just a comeback for the auto industry, but a comeback for the people.
We're moving. These 6 years have been tough, demanded hard work, demanded sacrifice on everybody's part. You guys know that more than most.
Obama said the federal government could have provided the auto industry money without any strings attached, or could have done nothing.
Since 2010, we, America, have put more people back to work than Europe, Japan, and every other advanced economy combined.
The president chose to invest in a program to encourage restructuring. The workers are excited to have the president come to town, but they're even more excited to have the auto industry coming back.
There's new things that we're trying, there's new processes, there's new ways of building cars, and it seems like we were both here when the auto industry was kind of going down, and there was no investment, there was nothing new. But when you're on the rebound, there's a lot of new techniques, a lot of new ways of building automobiles, and we're on the cutting edge of that here.
Cheryl Williams has worked at the Ford plant for 26 years. She adds she's happy the plant has kept its doors open.
In 2008, we were in danger of going up under, but President Obama and the UAW got together and Ford Motor Company, and they made it possible for us to stay open.
If there's one thing that you can take to the bank when talking about Detroit, is that Detroit always comes back.
With all of the things that they have planned here, will draw people from all over Genesee County.
It's been a long-time mission.
We had everything from art auctions to turkey dinners to volleyball tournaments.
And all the hard work has finally paid off. Davison resident Bob Callis has been fundraising for years to obtain the section of land off Gale Road between Court and Davison. His plan for the property is to create a man-made lake for the community.
This is Davison's first recreational lake. People won't have to go up north if they want to just go to the lake for the day. It'll be here.
Callis's passion and determination got Davison Township's attention.
We got together with the township and talked about it, and they decided that if we'd be willing to put what money we had raised into it, maybe they could pick up the rest, which they did.
It's good for the community. I mean, this was my dad's farm. It was originally 80 acres, and they bought 32 back for the ball fields back in the early 70s. And now there's another 40 acres for the lake area.
The 12-acre lake will include a beach area, sand volleyball courts, concessions, and pavilions.
Michigan is, of course, the Great Lakes state, and we have, I believe, over 13,000 inland lakes, this is one that's added to it.
With the building of the lake in full swing, Mr. Callis is happy to see his dream become reality.
You have no idea what's planned for that 45 acres. I mean, it's unbelievable, and once it comes to pass, this community is going to be so proud of it that people are going to come from all over to see the Davison project.
Poverty, a word defined as the state of being extremely poor. But for everyone facing it, they tell a different story on how they got there. Genesee County as a whole has a poverty rate of 27%, and the people living here are struggling to make ends meet. Tammy Houston is one of those people. A college graduate with a bachelor's degree, a single mother that was pregnant, lost her job due to an accident. That left Tammy without a place to live.
The day that I got the news, I was at the doctor's office, and one of my friends was there. And I was just like, thank you, because, I said, I don't know what would have happened if she wasn't there, because that news, it could have affected him, and it was already affecting me. I stayed in contact with certain people who were supportive and not scary about my situation.
While probing to find a home for her and her son, she didn't give up and kept searching.
There were places that had like a long waiting list, and like even at Family Promise, like right now they have a long waiting list. So yeah, it's not just like, oh yeah, because even when I went to the doctors, they would give me a list. I would call different counties. I'm like, I don't care, just look, I need a place to stay.
After applying for many shelters, Tammy finally found Family Promise of Genesee County, which is a shelter at the Calvary Church in Flint.
Tammy's situation is a perfect example of the type of family that we serve.
Lindsay Moore, the director of Family Promise, says she handles situations like this every day.
Family Promise of Genesee County's sole mission is keeping families together during a time of homelessness. And as a director, I meet with the families before they come into the program to get an idea of what their situation is, what kind of help they'll need, and to figure out if our program is beneficial for them. When families come into Family Promise of Genesee County, they're often hopeless, because they don't know how to provide for their children, they don't know where their children are going to stay, they don't know what they're going to be eating, and they don't know if they're going to be safe. While they're with us, we try to have an all-encompassing package. We offer parenting classes, we offer nutrition and budget classes so that families are able to create a sustainable life upon leaving Family Promise of Genesee County.
This 25-year-old mother of three who wanted to remain anonymous is currently in Family Promise, and she says it's been hard for her, but even harder on her children.
They're kind of confused because they're used to having their own home, having their own room, so it kind of hurts my feelings when they always ask. Since I've been here at Family Promise, I'm learning how to slow down and think clearer and make the right decisions for me and my kids.
She adds Family Promise has helped to put her back on her feet.
I just purchased me a car so I can get around. I'm going back to McDonald's for a part-time job. I start classes January 5th, so everything pretty much is falling in plan. Now it's just saving up to get into an apartment.
With poverty continuing to grow, shelters are running out of room and resources, which means they are turning people to the streets.
Even with our organization being open and able to serve families, there's still a need for families out there because there is just not enough shelter space available for families, for children, or parents may have exhausted some resources sometimes. So I think that as the need continues to be so great, as there's a gap in services or a gap in benefits for families, I think that expanding services will only help.
With days before the election, former President Bill Clinton made a stop at the Riverfront Banquet Center in Flint to rally up Democrats for the upcoming election.
Look what the unemployment rate is in Flint. You can't be happy about that, but you can. What this means is we got a chance to start again. We got a chance to make a new beginning. All of you who are first-generation immigrants, we've got a chance to recreate in America the conditions that brought you here. All of you that have worked all your life, you've got a chance now to resume the search for your dreams and give your children and grandchildren the chance to achieve theirs. We're starting over again.
With the polls so close, Democrats are pulling out the big guns, bringing in former President Bill Clinton to come to Flint and rally up voters and reminding them to get out and vote. Stumping for Democrat candidate Mark Schauer.
I understand that you build a strong economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. We need to rebuild our middle class. That's why we have all the momentum in this race.
And U.S. Senate candidate Gary Peters.
We have to win, and we have to stand up for the things that working men and women in this state need. We need to make sure that folks who put in a fair day get a fair wage, which is why we have to increase the minimum wage in this country across the board.
And those attending the event were very pleased with the outcome.
It was wonderful. The crowd was exciting. The speeches was wonderful. It was just a joyous time. The atmosphere was great. For me, myself personally, it was an honorable thing, and I really got a chance to shake his hand, and something I never thought I'd do in my lifetime, but it was great.
The former president also addressed a number of issues in this year's election, including minimum wage, equal pay, and more affordable college education.
Are we going to go back to trickle-down economics? Are we going to help working families and have middle-out economics, grow the middle class, raise incomes, and give poor people a chance to work their way into it?
Clinton knew exactly what buttons to push, making sure Democrats get out and vote.
You know, you're going to vote. We don't win these races and we get this gridlock because too many people don't vote at midterm. You will pass 100 people, every single one of you, in the next 13 days. Will you ask them to vote? Yes. Will you tell them why they should vote? Yes. Will you tell them they should vote for Gary Peters and Mark Schauer? Then you'll do great. Thank you, and God bless you.
Hello, Spartans! Go Green!
Michigan State University was in the spotlight as President Obama came to East Lansing to sign the landmark piece of legislation, the Farm Bill.
Farm Bill lifts up our rural communities. Over the past 5 years, thanks to the hard work and know-how of America's farmers, the best in the world, we've had the strongest stretch of farm exports in our history.
This bill represents the most significant reform of agriculture policy in decades by eliminating direct payments for subsidies that farmers receive for crops that they are not even growing. Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow, chairwoman of the Agriculture Committee, said it's been a process to get this bill passed.
We pulled together, you know, in the reasonable middle, as always, and then we had to negotiate out farm policy for every region of the country. So when you eliminate direct payments that go out regardless of laws, and you go to a new system, the challenge is finding a way to have that system work for every kind of crop in every kind of region. So I think that was probably the biggest challenge.
Local cherry grower Ben LaCrosse, who introduced the president on stage, says the new bill will benefit many farmers across America.
My crop wasn't insurable under the past farm bill. Now cherries are insurable under this new farm bill. So it really has a real impact to my ability to sustain weather disasters like we had in 2012.
The farm bill is a big piece of legislation for the whole country. But what does it mean for people right here in our community?
All of us are spending more of our money on local foods, local food production. So the farmers market in Flint and Davison, possibly other communities in the future, more and more of what we spend locally is going to go to benefit our local farmers, and that's good for the environment, it's good for our economy.
Congressman Dan Kildee says the Farm Bill includes the Local Food for Healthy Families bill, which gives SNAP recipients the ability to double their money when buying fresh foods at local farmers markets.
This really will mean a big difference for those folks who receive SNAP and often have a hard time getting through the month and have a healthy diet. I tried it for a week. I know it's tough. So they'll be able to see that immediate benefit.
Reporting out of Lansing, Matthew Smith.
There you go.
DTV News.
You can't walk 100 feet in either direction, even if you've lived out here 50 years, and not see something that you've never seen before.
And what people are going to see now is the long-awaited opening of the Robert Williams Nature Center right here in Davison Township. Back in 2012, the Williams family donated $3.1 million of land. That adds up to be over 100 acres, which is located off of Atherton Road, west of M15. Williams said he has enjoyed the land for years, and now he wants everyone to have a chance to see its beauty. When the township received word of the donation, they acted fast and started planning without delay. Randy Stewart, Building and Planning Administrator for Davison Township, says a lot of work has been done since the land was originally donated.
Well, since the last time that you were here, we've completed this building here. This is going to be the new home of the Davison Historical Society, and we're about a week away from putting the things in it.
Before, the Davison Historical Society didn't have enough room to store everything, but now they have all the room they need. The Historical Society created a slideshow movie about how the community has developed over the years.
We have some seats that come from the old Midway Theater in Davison that was donated by Allen Funeral Home that are going to go in here. We're going to seat about 30 people in the theater that's inside.
The second phase will be in the Northern House, creating a conference and educational center. The goal is to create a STEM school in this area.
Southern House, we're looking at putting some administrative offices like that in there and maybe some classrooms.
Other additions are over a mile of walking and riding trails, which will be open dawn to dusk.
This is just a great enhancement for the community. It's just a wonderful nature trail. It just mixes the old with the new, with a museum. It's just a wonderful opportunity to spend time with your family in nature.
But spending time with family is not the only thing this land is going to be used for.
I do senior pictures, and I expect to do senior pictures out here on the trail because there's so many great sites.
As work continues, the township plans to open it to the public very soon. In Davison Township, Matthew Smith.
Look how peaceful and beautiful this is.
DTV News.